Woody Johnson has been in the crosshairs this entire season, and especially after the firings of Joe Douglas and Rob Saleh and some of these guys that have left the organization. Rex Hogan prior to that, who was the assistant GM and one of Joe Douglas's best friends. So there's a lot of people out there that now have an axe to grind and probably speaking freely about stuff that happened. You know, there's a ton of guys who get fired in the NFL. Not everyone wants to go and disparage their former employer unless there's something that's going on that they feel like they need to explain or need to get out there. So, you know, I do believe that the things that I'm reading in here are true. I think the reporting has been good from Diana Russini and Zach Rosenblatt, and this just paints the Jets in even worse light than they've ever been in as I'm going through this article. And this is why I've been saying for months that anybody worth a hill of you-know-what who's a head coach candidate or general manager candidate is going to think twice about taking this job. And if there's any way that Mike Vrabel actually wants to take the job, and I'm Woody and you want him, you pay him more than anybody else. So, some of the highlights here. As I mentioned in the headline, Woody Johnson, in this article, they are claiming, nixed a trade for wide receiver Jerry Jeudy in the offseason based on his Madden rating. And this wasn't the only time he had done that. He had done that in the past and also did it with an offensive lineman who the Jets ended up bringing in anyway. But Woody Johnson said, I don't want to bring him in. His awareness on Madden is too low. Now, they're saying in the article that his sons, Brick and Jack, are the ones that are influencing this, that they are the teenage sons. They're younger. They play Madden, they read everything, and they bring it to Woody, and then Woody reacts to that. Even so much so that it's quoted in here. Now, Joe Douglas did not say this publicly, but it's quoted saying Joe Douglas once said in the building, someone witnessed him saying, I answer to a teenager, meaning one of Woody Johnson's sons. There was also a moment, they say, where Brick and Jack are way too involved, where Aaron Rodgers, after the Jets beat the Texans on that Thursday night game, had a game ball for Jeff Ulbrich because Jeff Ulbrich had won his first NFL game. And Brick walked into the locker room and announced that he was giving the game ball to Garrett Wilson. And it was the most awkward moment because Aaron Rodgers was standing there with a game ball about to present it to Jeff Ulbrich. Brick comes in, gives the game ball to Garrett Wilson, and the source in the article said that the entire air was sucked right out of the room. It was the most awkward thing ever, is what they said. So it basically paints a picture of a guy who is impulsive, who doesn't know what he's doing, who listens to everybody around him, like his sons, social media, things like that, and has created an environment there that it's almost impossible to succeed in. So, you know, when we say, why does it happen to the Jets? Why did this only the Jets type of thing? At least in the reporting that has gone on the last couple of years, especially this year, it goes to one thing, and that's Woody Johnson's inability to manage this franchise in any sort of competent way.
Yeah, well, this is not a great article for the incoming regime, whoever it is, that's for sure. But, you know, there are guys out there like Dimitrov and I'm sure John Robinson that will be more than happy to take the job because it is a job. It is one of 32 jobs, and it is a big job. So they'll deal with all the outside noise, and you know I'm sure they'll all be warned about all of this kind of stuff. I hate really kind of talking about teenagers. I mean, like, you know, these kids. Obviously, the people over there know who they are and everything else. I don't want to get involved in that. It really's got to be controlled by their dad, who owns the team. And if it is accurate, and I don't see why it wouldn't be accurate. That makes it a really difficult situation for a lot of people on that staff. Yeah, and it just makes it impossible. And I don't know if Woody's not going to see this. Nothing's going to change. You know, he's been around for a long time.
What do you mean he's not going to see this? So a guy who has been rumored to pay attention to everything that's going on in the media is not going to get this article, won't get to him?
No, I mean, like, he won't see it the way that it's written. Like, he won't see it that way. You know, I mean, that's his kids. That's his blood, you know, and it's his team. And, you know, he's a very impetuous and impatient owner, it sounds like. If somebody said, okay, Boomer, what would you say to Woody Johnson? I'd say, Woody, look, for 14 years, it hasn't gone right. And there's been one constant, and that constant has been you as the owner. I mean, you have to sit back and you have to look at yourself and you have to decide whether or not you want to hire people and let them do what they want to do. And of course, they're going to involve you in decision making. But if they feel strongly about making a certain type of decision, then you got to let them do it. You got to let them do their job. That's what you're paying them for. You know, they're the ones that have to deal with the aggravation. They're the ones that have to deal with the trades and have to deal with the draft and have to deal with injured players and have to deal with all the machinations that go into running a football team. And then to have an owner come in and say, hey, you know, we don't want this guy because his Madden rating and his IQ rating or whatever the hell it is, awareness rating is low, is ridiculous.
You ready for this one? This one I think is going to really get to you because it involves a quarterback. In 2022, quarterback Mike White played through broken ribs in a late-season game against the Seattle Seahawks with postseason hopes on the line. We remember that game.
Of course, yes.
White played poorly. The Jets lost and were eliminated from playoff contention. After the game, with the quarterback in the showers, after throwing his helmet to the locker room floor, multiple Jets players said they heard Woody Johnson say, "You should throw your helmet. You effing suck." The statement got back to White. The team spokesperson said Johnson apologized to the quarterback. "You should throw your helmet. You effing suck," to a backup quarterback who was playing through broken ribs. And so much so that a team spokesperson said in this story that Woody Johnson ended up having to apologize. That sounds like a true story to me. That sounds like a terrible thing.
It's not the right thing, no. It's awful.
You're holding back here.
It's awful.
You're holding back.
It's awful. I mean, these, man. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable, man, to say the least right now.
Yeah, I mean, and really what this comes down to, like, what does it mean? All right, it gives you an explanation as to why things have been brutal for the organization.
All right, so let me ask you this question now. So Mike Tannenbaum's doing this search. Mm-hmm. He lived this life. Mm-hmm. He was in there. He knows what's going on.
Yeah.
Do you think he's telling the prospective general managers this or no?
You want to know why?
Why?
He's getting paid by them again. He's hired. And he
but the word has to be out. The word has to be out on the street, in the NFL, with the coaches.
It is, and he'll defend Woody even if he doesn't believe what he's saying is true, for a couple of reasons. He was hired by the Jets, so he's not going to sit there and slam Woody. And two, his reputation's on the line because everybody knows that Tannenbaum and Spielman are looking for the next GM. So if they come up and suggest a guy that flops, then all of a sudden Mike Tannenbaum's name goes deeper into the mud in Jets history. In the post-game locker room after last year's Week 17 loss to Cleveland, multiple players said they heard Johnson's sons loudly disparaging certain Jets players. I mean, when you hear like multiple Jets players, I mean, that's when you're hearing things where this is not coming from, Rex Hogan or some of these other guys who had left. It could be players who had left, obviously, because they're on the last year's team, not this year's team.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, it's a mess. Definitely a mess, man.
And I know that Jets fans have said, these athletic reporters are after the Jets. I don't think that they're after the Jets. I think that the story comes to them. I think that the Jets have been so dysfunctional. They've been in the news because of Aaron Rodgers and everything else. It is New York. I think that it's coming to them.
Yeah.
They're not seeking it out.